Okay, gents, take a look at Perek Chav Tes Pasuk Chav Ches. Chav Tes Chav Ches. Okay, so we got yesterday. We're at page 1088. We were talking about that big lamed, and it says that Hashem will. Let's just read that pasuk again at the bottom of 1088. Vayichem Hashem me'ad Mosam be'avu v'chem v'ketzuk gadol, vayashlichem el eretz acheres kayom hazeh. So Hashem, then the Torah says, Hanistoros l'Hashem Elokeinu, which literally, I'm going to translate literally first. Hanistoros, the hidden things, are to Hashem our God. V'haniglos, top of page 1090, Lanu ulevanenu ad olam, for us and our children forever. Lasos is called divrei Torazos. What does that mean? Now, the first thing you notice in this pasuk is there are dots over the letters. And the dots over the letters do appear in a Sefer Torah. The vowelization under the letters do not appear in a Sefer Torah. The dots over the letters do appear in a Sefer Torah, which means that they're there in order to teach us something. The dots over the letters are there to teach us something. Take a look at Rashi. Hanistaros l'Hashem Elokeinu. So Rashi says over here, V'im Tomrut, the right column of Rashi, top line. Ma biyadenu lasos, what can we do? Ata manish es harabim al hirhure hayachid. You just spoke about the punishments that are going to come because there's a rotten egg among you. Why should we be punished for what this guy, we don't even know what he's thinking. Shenemar pedyesh bachem ish, maybe there's a man among you. And then it talks about the various plagues and calamities are going to happen. We don't know what somebody else is thinking. The Gemara in Pesachim says there are 7 things nobody knows. Nobody knows exactly how he's going to succeed in making parnasa. You try this, try that. You never know where you're going to succeed. Nobody knows the unborn gender of a child before the baby is born. I'm talking about without invasive or ultrasound. Nobody knows the unborn gender, and nobody knows what their friend is saying. One of the things nobody knows, the ultimate judgment of God, how God judges things, the depth of eternal judgment. Nobody knows. There's so many factors that only God can take into consideration, and nobody knows what another person is thinking. And so, why are we at fault for what this guy's got in his heart? That's what they're asking. Says Rashi, I'm not going to punish you for the hidden things. Shehein la Hashem Elokeinu. In other words, when the pasuk says Hanistaros Hashem Elokeinu, you're right. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't hold us accountable for what somebody's got in his heart. V'hu yifra me'oso yachid. He will take that individual will be held accountable. Aval haniglos, the revealed things. Lanu ulivanenu. That is incumbent upon us and our children. Livor harami kirbenu, to eradicate any of the evil from our midst. When we see people are sinning and people are doing things that we do have responsibility for. V'blo nasa din bahem, if we do not carry out judgment, then yanshu es harabim, then the public is going to be punished. And then Rashi points out, Nokud al lanu ulevanenu. There are dots over these words, lanu ulevanenu. Nokud means there are dots. Lidrosh, in order to teach us, she'afal haniglos lo anashes harabim achuas avros hayarden. They did not get punished even for the revealed averas, even though the Torah indicates you will be punished for revealed averas that we didn't take the means to prevent or to stop or put a stop to. But even that, they didn't get punished for that until they crossed the Yarden. That means collective responsibility only begins when they cross the Yarden. That's what the Torah says. Okay. Now that's what Rashi points out. Now the Mefarshim say like this: when the Jewish people crossed the Yarden, they attacked Yericho. The first thing they did is they went around Yericho, they blew the shofars, the walls of Yericho fell, and the Jewish people marched in and they destroyed Yericho. Then they went to a city called Ai. In Hebrew it's spelled Ayin Yud. And 36 people got killed at Ai. And Yeshua was despondent. Yeshua was the leader of Jewish people at that point. He said, what What happened over here? And what happened was that there was a ban on the property of Yericho. Nobody was supposed to take anything. It was all supposed to be burnt. And God said to Yericho, when Yeshua said, hey, what happened over here? We're supposed to capture this, we're supposed to overrun the country without any sort of opposition. Why did 36 Jews die in the Battle of the Eye? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to them, Chota Yisrael, the Jewish people have sinned. And what happened? One man, Achan ben Carmi, there was one man named Achan who had taken from Yericho, he had taken booty, spoils from Yericho, and he took it for himself. And then the whole Gemara discusses this man, what he did, what he took, and how much he took, and other averas that he did. The Gemara says he did other averas, including a Naram El Rasa. The Gemara goes on and really ranks him out. And at the end of the day, the question is obvious, but it was one man who's supposed to know what he's doing. How does anybody know what he's doing? So the Gemara says, well, it was somewhat public knowledge because his family members do, and the Gemara implies that there was a certain amount of public knowledge. But there's assuming he didn't know, Rav Dessler in Michtav Me'elio, he says a very, very important concept here that affects Jewish people. When one Jew sins, so what happens is the people at the top, if they would be up at the top, then the chain wouldn't droop. There'd be no droop. If they would be in their positions, if you have a chain, picture a link chain. If the people who are at the edges all the way at the top, if they would maintain their position firmly, so then there would be no drooping of the chain. That means if something is weak down at the bottom, that means that there's a weakness that started at the top. That means since the collective souls of the Jewish people are connected, including Philadelphia, the collective souls of the Jewish people are connected. So if there's a flaw in a lower soul or a lower person or a lower ranking person, that means that it's actually starting from somewhere above. And that we can't look at somebody down below. So if Achan sinned, what allowed Achan to get to the point that he would actually sin? There must have been some weakness up above also. And therefore everybody's collectively responsible. That's what the comment, that's what the Meforshim explained by Achan. You have to be careful where to apply this. In classes, they often apply collective punishment. Teachers will often apply collective punishment, which frankly isn't fair. One kid talks, okay, everybody loses their recess. Why am I responsible for him? What did I do? Could I have decked the guy? No. Right, you couldn't control him. How am I supposed to control him? I'm only a student here. So it's unfair. Sometimes people just lash out collective punishment. At the end of the day, the Torah says there's collective punishment, but it is fair because ultimately everybody's responsible. There's a certain degree of responsibility. That's the first thing it says. The second thing here is that when it comes to the mitzvahs themselves, this is also a fundamental concept in Torah. It says, Hanistaros Lashem Elokeinu. The hidden reasons, leave to Hashem. You want to know why we're doing mitzvahs? Why do we put on tefillin? Why can't we eat pork? Why is this? Why is that? So on the one hand, we're supposed to investigate, but I've mentioned several times in the past that the Sefer, there's a Sefer Yereim, or Sefer Charedim, says that if a person would live 1,000 years twice, which is 2,000 years, just a poetic way of saying it, if a person would live 1,000 years twice, we would not fathom the divine wisdom of the depth of even one mitzvah. So we're supposed to look for the mitzvah. We're supposed to try to figure out what could be behind, what did God have in mind, and often what God had in mind is some sort of benefit. There is some sort of benefit. One of the reasons we can't eat shellfish, there are benefits. There are health benefits in not eating shellfish. It doesn't mean it's the only reason, and it may not even be the main reason. There are certain benefits in keeping Shabbos. It unites the family, and it helps you to relax, and so on and so forth. It may be a benefit. It may not be the main benefit. Because if a person the proof is that if a person's in a situation where he landed in an airport 20 minutes before Shabbos, and he always got his apple and crackers, he can't break Shabbos to get to where he wants to go. He's going to have to spend time in 24 hours in an airport with apples, which is not very relaxing. But so it's a reason, but not necessarily the only reason. Certainly not the only reason. It may not even be the main reason. So the Torah says, Hanistaros Lashem Elokeinu. The hidden ideas behind Torah and mitzvahs, they leave that to God. Ve'haniglos, but the revealed obligations, that means Shulchan Aruch. That means what the Torah says to do. You have to say Kriya Shema by a certain time. You're not allowed to pull cucumbers out of your salad on Shabbos. You can't separate them. You're not allowed to wear wool and linen. That's revealed. That we under Lanu ulevanenu ad olam. That is for us and our children forever. Lasos es kol divrei Torah, to fulfill the entire Torah. And that means that even if we don't understand, and I don't know why I can't pull a cucumber out of my salad on Shabbos if I don't like it, and it's punishable by stoning. And that's a pretty rough Torah right there. But then again, I doubt very highly there was anybody in history ever executed for borer. Because in order to execute, you need 2 witnesses, and it's got to be done on the spot. So it's one thing if it's a crime of passion, where a guy's chasing another guy to kill him, especially if he owes him money, or if the guy burned him some other way. So he's killing him. The witness says, if you kill him, you're going to die. He says, I don't care. That we can picture. But a guy sitting at a Shabbos table with his suit and his tie, and he's about to flick a cucumber, and 2 witnesses says, don't do that or you're going to be stoned and bathed in. And the guy says, you know what, all right, forget it. Just give me the gefilte fish. I can see a guy passing on the salad. Nobody's going to die for borer. Nobody's willing to die for borer. I actually heard about a guy who became a Baal Tshuva. So they asked him what inspired him to become a Baal Tshuva. So he said he was reading one of the first halachic works translated was written by Rabbi Shimon Eider from Lakewood. Shimon Eider wrote the book on the laws of Shabbos, translated into English. So this guy became a Baal Tshuva. Somebody said to what inspired you to become a Baal Tshuva? So he said, well, I was reading the laws of Shabbos from Rabbi Shimon Eider, and that inspired me. He says, well, what specifically inspired you? He said, particularly the laws of borer. The laws of borer are about as dry and technical as you could possibly pick. He said, what about borer did you find inspiring? He said, no human being would care or could care less if I pull my tomatoes away from my onions or my onions away from my tomatoes. A law like that could only have been made up by God. It's got to be true. That's what he found inspiring. We had another guy here who was going to leave. He was in Yeshiva for a couple of weeks, and he was going to leave. He trekked it out, and he was going to leave. And then the last Shabbos before he left, so he went to one of the rabbi's houses. So they brought out the chalt. And after the chalt, the rabbi reached down and he brought out some Johnny Walker. So the guy looks, he goes, what? Rabbis drink? I'm staying. And he became from, changed his name to Yaakov Walker, and he became from, there he is. See, you never know what's going to push the buttons. On the other hand, one thing we have to be clear about, it's not a catalog where we get to pick and choose. It's a Shulchan Aruch, it's codified, it's mandatory, and we know what it says. Maybe there's a little bit of a machlokes. The Chazon Ish holds you got to be machmir. The Chafetz Chaim says okay. There are little machlokeses along the way, but lasos es kol divrei Torah. We have to fulfill the entire Torah. Okay. One other idea contained in this pasuk, and this is also something that I think is. People get caught up in this a little bit, and we need to understand that this is not the correct Torah approach. According to the Mefarsha, this alludes to the Messianic era, to the bringing of the Mashiach. Get a trampoline, start jumping up and down, yeah, with a bottle of Johnny Walker, yeah. So it's Hanistaros Lashem Elokeinu v'aniglos lanu vonenu. There are 2 possible times where Mashiach could come. Mashiach could come when we're totally undeserving. And frankly, in the world, the way the world looks today, I mean, if you were Mashiach, would you want to come? Look at the world. Look at what this world looks like today. So there are 2 possible times for Mashiach to come. One is where Mashiach would come, where it's totally illogical to us, doesn't make any sense. Why is today better than yesterday? And he didn't come for the Chafetz Chaim. He didn't come for the Vilna Gaon. Why would he come for us? That's what's called Hanistaros, the hidden times, L'Hashem Elokeinu. And Haniglos, the revealed times, is Lanu Ulvanenu. It's up to us and our descendants, our children. You know how? Lasos is called Divrei Torah, so if we fulfill the Torah. Then it makes sense. If we're all fulfilling the Torah, and Mashiach would show up and say, oh yeah, well that's logical. If it's not being fulfilled, and we have an obligation to believe that Mashiach, not only he will come, but he could come at any time Those are two obligations. Not only that he will come, he could come anytime, and except on Erev Shabbos. But he could come anytime, because Erev Shabbos we have to prepare for Shabbos. Oh, sorry, Eliyahu Navi. Eliyahu Navi won't come on Erev Shabbos. Eliyahu Navi precedes the Mashiach. Eliyahu Navi won't come on Erev Shabbos. Because Erev Shabbos, we have to prepare for Shabbos. Tells you something about the importance of Shabbos. If even the preparations of Shabbos are so important, tells you the importance of Shabbos. And Eliyahu Navi won't bother us on Erev Shabbos when you're busy washing the floor, because we're preparing for Shabbos. When will the Mashiach come? He could come in one of two ways. When there are hidden times, where it makes no sense, or where it's up to us. One thing that we have to be careful of, don't try to do something to bring Mashiach. Let's see if we could innovate some sort of approach in serving God. Well, that'll cause Mashiach to come. That's not our job. Our job is, Lasos es kol divrei Torah zos. Keep fulfill the laws of the Torah. Let HaKadosh Baruch Hu worry about Mashiach. Not that, okay, we're going to do something now to force Mashiach. It doesn't work that way. And the Rambam codifies that. The Rambam, when he talks about the laws of Mashiach, the Rambam says, we believe it, we know it's going to happen, but it's not something that we should be spending our time and focus on. The Rambam writes that openly. And it doesn't say anywhere in the Torah, anywhere, that there is some sort of campaign to bring him. There's no campaign. We mention it in davening 3 times a day. Es tzemach Dovid avdecha mehiras atzmiach. Cause the flourishing, the sprouting of the Davidic dynasty. David Melech, Mashiach. That's what we mentioned. We daven for it 3 times a day. That's it. We don't walk around all day figuring out how we're going to bring Mashiach. It doesn't say that anywhere. We don't have any sources for that. Our sources say, study Torah, do what you have to do, and let HaKadosh Baruch Hu worry about Mashiach. And that has to be very clear. And people who come along and say, well, we're going to try to force the issue, so they're going against the Rambam. Because the Rambam Paskin's not like that. The Rambam says it's not even something we should be focused on. And don't make it an ikar, the Rambam calls it. Don't make it a main source of our focus and energy. Focus on what we're supposed to do. Did your parents ever tell you, don't do what you want to do what I want you to do? Sometimes you want to do your parents a favor. So they asked you to mow the lawn, that you didn't do. Then you decided to help them out in some other way. They say, well, that I didn't need help with. They should have mowed the lawn. Did that ever happen to you? That happens all the time. You know, the fun things we want to do. Yeah, Josh.
Could campaigning for Mashiach be like making him not come?
Not only could, it's probably likely. I don't know. I am a Kohen. I could be Eliyahu Navi. I can't be Mashiach. And I don't want to tell. But why haven't I revealed myself? What do you call it? I don't know that it's preventing him, but certainly it's not helping. And the idea of that, well, if it doesn't help, it can't hurt. You ever hear people say that? Well, it can't hurt. Yeah. Oh yeah? I'll show you how it does hurt. I'll show you what it could hurt. The Chazon Ish said there was a guy in his town, an eccentric old Jew, who used to walk around with glasses frames but no lenses. So somebody once came over and said, there's an eccentric. So somebody said, hey, Herschel, it doesn't help you see any better. He said, yeah, but it can't hurt. Well, what do you think of that? That hurts. That means that the guy's not stable. It does hurt. If you do it's roughly the equivalent of being in traffic. You're stuck in a traffic jam, and so what you do is you start pushing against the dashboard. Why are you doing that? I want to move through traffic. It's a sign of instability, right? It does hurt to do so. Not only that, it hurts because you could have been using your time more productively. Go learn a Daf Yomi. Go learn a Daf Gemara. That'd be the best thing you could do to bring Mashiach. Go learn a Mishnah. Go learn a Chumash. Go learn anything. Go do a Chesed. That'll bring Mashiach. To do your idea of serving God, I heard once about. I'll tell you once once I get started on this subject, it's hard to cart me away if it goes too long. But I once heard there was a tragedy that took place, and there was a woman wrote an article in one of these Jewish magazines. She's a painter. And she said that instead of attending the funeral, she went and she painted something in honor of their death. So what did she do? She bypassed one of the biggest mitzvahs that you could possibly do for something that isn't worth diddly poo. Because it doesn't say anywhere that when you paint, it elevates somebody's soul. You made that up. Maybe you felt good about it. Maybe you felt that you're releasing or your emotions or whatever else you're doing. That I have no problem with. If you tell me you're painting because you need to relieve your emotions, I have no problem with that at all. But when you turn things into a mitzvah, that I have a lot of problem with. And when a woman says to my wife that she and her husband are going to Switzerland for a vacation because it's a mitzvah to see the wonders of creation. Oh yeah? Why don't you come babysit with my grandchildren? They're wonders of creation also. That's a mitzvah too. Then me and my wife could go to Switzerland. And I wouldn't tell you that it's a mitzvah. You want to go on a vacation? I have no problem. Go on a vacation. Go, give a gesundheit. Everybody needs their outlets. I have no problem. Don't turn it into a mitzvah. Call a spade a spade. Don't turn it into a mitzvah. It's not a mitzvah. Is it something I want to do? Yeah, I want to do. I play guitar because it's a way of serving Hashem, like the Leviim in the Beis HaMikdash. I only got two problems with that. You're not a Levi, and you're not in the Beis HaMikdash. And what you're playing is probably not music either. But at the end of that won't get into. You understand? Don't go making things up. Be honest about it. I'm eating a chocolate bar because it elevates. I'm elevating the sparks in the chocolate to God's throne. Oh yeah. So how come you got indigestion from it, right? If it was so elevated, hey, you want to eat a chocolate bar? Eat a chocolate bar. Don't make up the story. That's what the Torah says. Don't try to help HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's a very big danger where people come up with their own way of serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You know, I used to tell my sons that they would read the Frum newspaper. The Frum newspaper that comes out, and it's free on Tuesdays. So my sons would read the newspaper, got all the Israeli politics in it. So I used to say to my sons, listen, if you're reading the newspaper because you just enjoy it, it's relaxing, find some interesting stuff in it, that's fine. If you're reading it because you think it's important for you to know what's going on, then stop reading it. Because it's not important for you to go on, and let's not kid ourselves. Why is it important for me to know what two guys in the Knesset called, what names they called each other? How is that going to affect it? It's not important. Why is it important for me to know what Donald Trump is fighting with the Chinese on some sort of tariff? So I don't have money. I'm not Donald Trump. I'm not Chinese. So what does it help me? You're interested? Well, people say, well, you have to know how to relate to people. No, people, hi, I'm Chinese. No, you're fine. Hi, I'm the tariff. No, you're not. Maybe you're the sheriff, not the tariff. Don't give me the nonsense. You want to read it. That's fine. But don't go making up. Don't go making up Judaism. That's right. Don't go making up Judaism. Please put away all technology. By the way, we're learning Hashem's Torah here. Technology outside.
Rabbi, are there people that actually are campaigning for Moshiach?
No. I mean, if I see a bumper, I'm not mentioning, I don't know any groups or any specific, but I have seen bumper stickers that say, we want Mashiach now. That sounds like a campaign to me. I don't know who's doing it. I'm not, any associations are your own. I'm only saying I've seen the bumper stickers.
So if a group believes that the next mitzvah might bring Mashiach,
that's not our job. That's not our job, the next mitzvah.
The problem is the intention of them wanting to.
Don't do the mitzvah because you have to do the mitzvah. You're not going to bring Mashiach. Here, I'll get to you 1 second. Yes, there's a classic example. Why do you put up, Josh, hold it. Why do you put up a mezuzah? Why do we put mezuzahs on the door? Why do you put up? Huh? Because Hashem said so. You got to put up a. We know the Gemara says a mezuzah also affords protection. But you don't put up a mezuzah for protection. You put up a mezuzah because it's a mitzvah. It also happens to be that it affords protection. But that's not why we're putting up a mezuzah. Why are we blowing shofar on Rosh Hashanah? Why do we blow shofar? Anybody know why do we blow shofar? Why do we blow shofar? It's a mitzvah. People always say, what should I be thinking about when I'm hearing the shofar blowing? The first thing you should think about is that you're fulfilling a Torah command. You could think about inspiration, tshuva, the binding of Yitzchak when the Avram Avinu slaughtered him, which it recalls this in it. You think of Har Sinai and all there are 10, Rav Hai Gaon brings down 10 different things to think about. But the first thing you have to think about is like fulfilling a Torah command. Gzeiras HaKosuv. It's a Torah decree to hear the horn that's blown from a ram's horn. By the way, I saw a shofar the other day. I blew a shofar in shul, and it was good. I mean, it's a friend of mine in the neighborhood. I said to him, "You blow on Rosh Hashanah?" He said, "Yeah." I could tell the guy was good. And I looked at his shofar. I said, "That's an easy shofar to blow, right?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Let me have a shot at that." And I took the shofar. Beautiful. And it's a heavy shofar. I said, "How much did that baby cost?" He said, $400. And this was bought in 1992 or 1993. I mean, as soon as I picked it up, you could tell this isn't one of your regular shul shofars. This thing looks like the ram's attached to it. You know, you could tell, and it's a hand carved, and it's heavy, and you can tell the sound is It's a rich sound that's coming at $400 back then. I mean, in 1991, that must have been probably got close to $2,000. That's what's that? Oh yeah, and you could tell. And I could tell by the sound as soon as he blew it. It was after davening in the morning. As soon as he blew it, I'm looking like, whoa, what was that? That wasn't your usual morning shofar. But why are we blowing shofar? Because the Torah command to blow the shofar, not because it arouses us to tshuva. Sure, we should be thinking about. By the way, my favorite Rosh Hashanah story is one of the guys in the Mir Yeshiva. He went to Reb Nosson Tzvi Finkel's, that's all. It was Rosh Yeshiva Mir. And he said to him, "Rebbe, what should I think about while the shofar is being sounded on Rosh Hashanah?" You know, you got different things to think about. Har Sinai, Akedas Yitzchak. So Rebbe Finkel said to him, think about other people. Love that. Love that. Because sometimes we think Judaism, sometimes people think of Judaism vertically. Judaism is not only vertical, Judaism is also horizontal. And speaking of vertical, heard an unbelievable idea last night. A friend of mine, Rabbi Renan Robinson, from the other yeshiva, he quoted his brother, who's a rabbi in Chicago. He's a rabbi in Chicago, Rabbi Kobe Robinson. He said like this, you know, Yaakov Avinu had a ladder. Yaakov's dream was the ladder. What does the ladder symbolize, obviously? Right? Growth, right? Upwards mobility, right? Why a ladder? Why not stairs? Go one level at a time. Everybody talks about a ladder. Why did he dream about a ladder? Why not an elevator? Right? Why not, why? Because a ladder is one rung at a time. Growth is one rung at a time. So why not stairs? Stairs is also one step at a time. Why not? Why a ladder? So he said something remarkable, a phenomenal thought. Yeah, what did he say? Other people hold the ladder. Okay, it doesn't say, well, yeah, it doesn't say that Yaakov had people holding the ladder, though. The ladder was planted in the earth and the head in the heavens. It's not a bad idea. Get other people involved holding a ladder. But here, Yaakov, what do you say, Nashon?
Ladder you can easily fall down.
If you go more than one rung at a time. Yeah. You ever see, if you try climbing too much on a ladder, then you can lose and they go falling down and banging your face on every rung as on the way down, like in the cartoons. Doink, 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 right all the way down. That's true. He said like this, the ladder represents our she'ifos. She'ifos means our goals. We all have goals of how much we have to grow. The goals that we have are usually limited somewhere by our imagination. Yet, many people down the line find themselves that they've grown far more than they could have possibly imagined. They never could have imagined it in the earliest state. You imagine growing. I even said to somebody today, think about where you were last Rosh Hashanah and think about where you're holding this Rosh Hashanah. You never would have believed it. And a person grows. But we usually, at the point that we're imagining our growth, we figure, yeah, based on who I am and what I can do and whatever my abilities are, I could see myself getting to this point. The difference between steps and a ladder is that on a ladder, your hands go above your head. That means that you have the potential to reach even beyond your imagination. And that a person should never limit himself. A person never undersell himself. We have an imagination where we could get. We're not limited by that. Our job is to grow. And as we grow, it could very well be that we're going to surprise ourselves. Now, just hold on a second, because this is related very much to what we're going to talk about over here. Take a look at, how much time do we have? How much time? Okay, we got a few minutes here. I want to go there, a few points here. Take a look at Perek Lamed, Pasuk Aleph. So the Torah says, page 1090, and here's the theme of tshuva. It says, V'haya ki yavo alecha kol advarim ha'ele, page 1090, third line from the top. When all this happens to you, habracha ve'haklala, the blessing and the curse, asher nasati lefanecha, v'ashevosa lovecha b'chol hagoyim asher hidichacha Hashem lokecha Hashem, you'll take it to heart. And what are you going to do at that point? Once the blessing or the curse comes, Vishavta ad Hashem Elokecha, you'll return to Hashem your God. Jews are going to do tshuva. What's going to trigger tshuva? Says the Torah, blessing or curse is going to trigger tshuva. Blessing or curse. Now, how does blessing trigger tshuva? A person prospers. How does that trigger tshuva? And what triggers more tshuva? What would you say, blessing or curse? Which triggers more tshuva, Yehudi? Curse, for sure. When a person, the chips are down, and a person's really down, then a person's all of a sudden like, oh boy, I better get my act. I feel I'm getting punished. It is possible for a person to do tshuva out of prosperity. We'd much rather do that. That a person finally, a person makes a lot of money, or a person, things are going well for a person, says, hey, who's doing this for me? And he actually comes to an awareness of God, but it doesn't usually work that way. Usually a person's distracted by prosperity. Prosperity can be very, very tricky and very distracting. On the other hand, there could be a prosperity that drives a person to boredom. Person's so rich, you're like, what now? I've accomplished my goals. What do I do now? What have I got left now? And a person could actually get to depression. In life, it's always good to have something that you need to accomplish. And I'm at the point where I don't need to. The Gemara says that if a man is wealthy, a woman has certain obligations to her husband. Gemara in Ksubis, it's a Mishnah actually. The Mishnah says that a man has various obligations to his wife, and a woman has obligations to her husband. She has to cook, she has to bake, she has to do this, certain things she has to do. If he brings one servant into the house, she's absolved from certain obligations. Brings in two servants, brings in three servants, she sits in a katedra. Yosheves bekatra. She sits on a couch or in a hammock or something, and no matter how many you bring in, she should still have to work with. She should, because boredom brings to what the Gemara is often translate depression. You got nothing to do. Where do you get up? Where are you going to go? Go to another tea, another banquet, what are you going to do? People need work because they get up because you have to have, a person has to have what he's trying to accomplish. A person could become very wealthy and depressed, and that could actually bring him to do tshuva. He decides to go sit in the shul a little bit, put away the Siddurim, go to the rabbi's talk, and slowly, but usually not. Usually it's a reverse. It's a result of the klala. Now, look at Rashi for a second. The next pasuk. V'shava Hashem Elokecha es shavuscha, pasuk Gimel. Hashem will bring back your captivity. V'richamecha, of mercy on you. V'shav v'kibetzcha mikol ha'amim asher afitzcha Hashem Elokecha. Hashem will gather you from all the nations you've been scattered around. I mean, gentlemen, just look at Ohr Somayach. We have representatives from basically all 7 continents. Don't we have 7 continents?
Do you have any rabbis from Antarctica?
Antarctica, I was on one of those expeditions. Our ship got stuck in the ice. We made it out. We were there stuck for about 7 months, but we made it. We survived. We ate wood. No, we don't have anybody. I've never met anybody from Antarctica. You're right. Nobody from Antarctica. What's that?
We got a whole lot of penguins.
Penguin, but we don't have. Thank you. But we don't have what you got. You got South Africa, you got Africa, you got America, you got everywhere. You were all over. What's gathered us together? What's gathered us in Israel? Eretz Yisrael? Hashem has gathered us together. Take a look at Rashi. A very, very telling Rashi here. It's the left column, top line. This is really something that if you've done any reading, you'll see that this is it's so true. V'shav Hashem Elokecha shvuscha. Hashem will return. How does the article translated? God will bring back your captivity. Says Rashi, Haya lalichto v'heshiv shvuscha. Should have said in the verb form. V'shav sounds like Hashem will return with your captivity, as opposed to Hashem will bring back your captivity. So Rashi says, why does it say shav, which is return? It should have really said bring back. Rabosenu lamdu mikan. So the Gemara learns from here, kaviyachol, so to speak, shehashchina shruya im Yisrael betzoras gelusam. God's divine presence is with us in Golus. Guys, we haven't been abandoned. We're not doing that great, but God didn't abandon us. Ukshenigolim, when we're redeemed, pay attention carefully. Third line. Hichtiv ha'geula la'atzmo. The pasuk says God will bring. He writes in the Torah as if He Himself will be redeemed with us. Shehu yashuv imohem. God will come back with us. Ve'od yesh lomer. This is the point I wanted to get to. Gadol yom kibbutz agolios. The day of gathering the exiles is awesome. Uvekoshi, and with great difficulty. Ki iluhu atzmot sarich lios ochez biyodov mamish, as if he has to take hold of every individual Jew. Ve'af ish mimkomo. God has to take hold of the hands of every individual Jew and bring them back. Come here, come here, come here, come here, come here, come here. It's like gathering your kids. It's like gathering your kids when you're leaving the amusement park. Okay, guys, let's go. Nobody shows up. Yeah, come here. When you get over here, just stand here. Now, just wait. Come on, we're going. Come on, not another ride. No, we're going. Where did he go? that sort of thing. So you just sell them all. So it says each individual Jew will be brought back. If you read in the Holocaust, any of the Holocaust books, every single person who was survived in the Holocaust has their own individual story. Once in a while, there's a group or a family. Most of the time, it was one guy from this barracks and one guy from over here. And then Rashi goes on to say, so you'll be plucked out one at a time. Read the books. This one had his miracle. This one was lying under a pile of bodies. And this one bribed the guard. And this one had a relative who somehow found him where he was about to die and he kept him alive. Each one's got their own stories with one miracle after the other. One miracle after the other. So you see how timeless the Torah is. It's exactly what the Torah is predicting. And God's going to bring this Jew back. Why you from your community and not somebody else from his community? There's a train full of secular Jews. Why did one guy make it back to Yiddishkeit and another guy didn't? How did he, what siyata d'shmaya did he have? Why him and other? Who knows? But it's one here and one there. I want to tell you one last point. You take a look later on. We don't have time, but if you take a look at Pasuk on Perek Lamed Aleph, I'll tell you an amazing story. Take a look at Perek Lamed Yud Gimel, Pasuk Yud Gimel. Next page. So it says, bottom of 1090. Last word on 1090. Ki ha-mitzvah hazos, this mitzvah, some say it's referring to the mitzvah of tshuva. Some say it's referring to the mitzvah of Torah learning. Some say it's referring to mitzvahs in general. Whatever it's referring to, Asher anochi mitzav chayom lo niflesi mincha. It's not beyond you. V'lo rachokahi. It's not far. Lo b'shamayim hi. The Torah is not even in heaven. Leimor miyale lanu hashamayma. Who's going to go up to heaven? V'kachel lanu v'yashmiel sevda said. Who's going to bring it down for us? The Torah is not in heaven. And now Rashi makes a really puzzling statement here. Look what Rashi says. Third line, right column. Lo b'shamayim hi, says Rashi, quoting the Gemara. She'ilu haisa b'shamayim. If Torah was in heaven, hayisa tzarich lalos acharei l'lamda. You'd have to go up to heaven to go and learn it. Oh yeah? Oh yeah? How exactly would you do that? Torah's up there. Go up to heaven and learn Torah. I know. Oh yeah. I was once. This reminds me of we were once standing by the bus stop on a Friday afternoon. It packed. The buses were passing. One bus passed. Another bus passed. A third bus passed. And so I remember there was this old guy, secular guy. He had 2 baskets that he had full of fruits and vegetables. Friday afternoon, and the guy goes, "If the next bus doesn't stop, I'm going to stop him by force." And I remember I was in Kola at the time. I remember thinking to myself, now this I got to see. I want to see him stop a bus by force. Superman gets out, stopping a locomotive. Let's see him stop it. If it's in heaven, you got to go up there for it. Oh, this I got to see. Oh, this I got to see. I got to see you go up there. Let's see you go up to heaven. What's the Torah? What does that mean? If it was in heaven, you'd have to go up there. You know what it means? Did you ever see people do unreasonable, desperate things in their pursuit of money? All the time. If it's important to you, you do things even if it's not logical. If it's really important to you, you'll take any chance possible to achieve the goal. Even if Torah is beyond our reach or we think it is, we'll make every effort to go grab Torah. Even if it means going up to heaven. And then the Torah says, God says, look at this. Pasuk Yud Gimel. Ki karov says, it's very near to you. Pasuk Tesvav, not Pasuk Yud Gimel. Re'ei nasati lefanecha hayom es hachayim ve'es hatov. I've put before you life and that which is good, ve'es hamoves ve'es hara. Death and that which is not good. And then in Pasuk Yud Tes, skip down 5 lines, 6 lines from the bottom of the page. I call to witness today, heavens and earth. I put life and death before you. Choose life. In case we didn't know to do that. But sometimes we don't, do we? That means think. Because what looks good and feels good and tastes good isn't necessarily life. That might be death. So I'll tell you an unbelievable story. This happened many years ago. I have a friend in my neighborhood, a guy in my neighborhood who was an Israeli Baal Tshuva. And I knew he was an Israeli Baal Tshuva. I have one guy in my neighborhood who was at Entebbe. Remember the raid on Entebbe? Oh, really? There's a guy from the neighborhood who he was actually at Entebbe. He's today a Rosh Kollel. He's the head of a Kollel. I have another guy maybe who was with Israeli intelligence. He taught me a few intelligence tricks, right? You don't know what I know. And then there was this guy, another guy who was in the Israeli Air Force, flying either F-15s or F-16s, whatever it was at the time, the top plane. And this guy I knew he was living in my neighborhood, completely from today. He himself is a posek and a Rosh Kollel. And I knew this guy was brilliant. They told me this guy was brilliant. He was in the Israeli Air Force, which means you're not only brilliant, you also have a certain personality and a certain abilities that most average people don't have. So I once asked this guy, and I asked him, I knew that he grew up on a secular kibbutz. I once asked him, how did he become a Baal Tshuva? He was in the Air Force. How did he become a Baal Tshuva? The guy said to me, he was on the secular kibbutz, and he finished his secular education, and he went to the Israeli Air Force. He was a captain flying F-15s, F-16s. In the meantime, there was a traffic accident on the kibbutz, and 3 sets of parents were killed. Short time later, the daughter of one of those sets of parents left the kibbutz, and she went off to a seminary for Balei Tshuva, and she became frum. Everybody on the kibbutz said, of course, this was a leftist, anti-religious kibbutz, and everybody on the kibbutz said, of course, she became religious. She's emotionally unstable, like all those religious, all the Haredim parasites, and she goes off, okay. About a year and a half later, she comes to Balei Tshuva, she gets engaged to Yeshivat Ohr. They're having a wedding. So this guy's in the Air Force, he's invited to the wedding. So he told me, I had asked him this, it was Shabbos, right after davening, we're both standing outside with our taluses on still. I'm asking him, he's telling me his life story. He says, he's on his way to this wedding, and he was with a few of his secular friends. They're on the way to the wedding, and they're making jokes. The way he put it, he said they're making jokes about yeshiva bacharols. They know they're going to see a bunch of yeshiva bacharols over at the wedding. Yeshiva bacharols are a bunch of draft dodgers, and they're turtles in a shell who don't know what's going on in the world, and they're making jokes the whole time. Okay, they get to the wedding, and they're still making jokes. They get to the reception, they're still making jokes. Then they have the chuppah, and they're still making jokes. And the chassan and kala finish the chuppah, they go off into the yichur, they're still making jokes. Then also the guy announces, okay, the chassan and kala are coming out for the dancing. Everybody please get ready for the dancing. So he told me he was standing there, and he noticed that the room split into 2. There were the friends of the chassan, the friends of the chassan all got up to get ready to wait for the chassan so they could dance with the chassan, and they moved to one side of the room. And his people, his family, his secular friends, all those who he grew up with, has spent his entire life with, they were on the other side of the room. They weren't going to dance. They were sitting, they just moved to the other side of the room. So he told me, I'll never forget the look on his face when he said this. He said, he took a look at the contrast of the yeshiva bochrim with their glowing faces and their contentment that's written all over them. And he took a look at his people, and he's looking at this contrast, and he thought to himself, and you all understand, even if you don't know Hebrew, you'll understand this. He thought to himself, Zeh chai v'zeh met. So these people are alive and these people are dead. He says, Ani rotzeh lechyot. Ani rotzeh lechyot. I want to live. He said the decision to become a Baal Tshuva was made instantly. He said, this is life over here. This is that. I don't. So there would happen to be at the time an Israeli mekaraver, like an Israeli headhunter, who happened to be at this wedding. And these guys are good. So he saw this guy's eyes light up. This guy. So he immediately made a beeline for him. He said, okay, listen, there's a God. Torah was given, and it wasn't evolution. The guy says, I have no questions. Just tell me what to do. He says, no, we don't come from gorillas. We don't. He says, I don't care. Just tell me what I have to do. He ruined his day. And this guy was looking for a good argument. And he was already convinced. That's what the Torah says. The choices are obvious. Look around you. The choice is, choose life. That's what the Torah wants. Choose life. Okay, see you tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow for Gemara Shir.